with us on Overdrive. Suzuki's very first electric scooter for the Indian market is the E-Access, which is aimed at urban commuters. And while we had a very short time to test this out on a test track, we are here to tell you what it feels like to drive on our Indian roads.
According to the research done by Suzuki, EV penetration for two-wheeler space has gone from 2% in 2021 to 16% in 2025, which is a significant amount in such short time. It only made sense for Suzuki to bring the Access brand, which is doing good for itself in the ICE space, to the EV segment of things. Now, how does it ride? What are the features it has to offer? What is the range? I'm going to try and tell you all about that and more in this video. Let's start with how the E-Access looks and what does it have to offer in terms of cycle parts and features. Well, to start with, it does not look, it's not a head turner, but then again, it's not bland or boring. It has sharp creases, which gives it a sporty and aggressive look. And you have LED lighting, DRL right over here, lighting up front. This is LED, and you have LED lighting at the rear as well. And you also get these nice sleek indicators, which are quite aggressive. The E-Access runs on 12-inch wheels, tubeless tires, alloys, but it gets disc brakes up front and a drum unit at the rear. When it comes to suspension, telescopic unit up front and a swing arm unit at the rear. It comes shod with CEAT tires. Now, as you move to the rear, you can see a single piece seat with nice white stitching, and it also has this, a seat stop function, which means that whenever you are trying to load and unload things into this boot space, which is again 17 liters, which is good for a half-face helmet, not for a full-face helmet, you don't have to hold this. It will be frozen just like this because of the seat stop feature. And when you're done with loading and unloading, you can just push it back. There it is. You have grab rails for the rear passenger. And I am around 5 feet 9 inches tall, and the seat height is 765 mm. And this is how I look when I sit on it. As you can see, the balls of my feet are comfortably planted on the ground, and everything falls perfectly, very natural. This is a very comfortable position to sit in. One thing that I like about the footboard is that it has been designed in such a way that you can keep your feet like this, push yourself back on the seat, and you can be in a little more comfortable position than neutral, which is actually something that I like. And this can be very handy, actually very useful when you are riding on those long journeys. Now, when it comes to other specifications, you have 160 mm of ground clearance and like I said, 765 mm of seat height, but this is just 122 kilos, which means it's quite nimble to handle. See? Easy peasy, which is very welcoming to riders of all shapes and sizes. It has a side stand and a center stand as well, which when engaged, there's a motor kill function as well, which means that if your side stand is engaged, this won't start, which is nice. Now, when it comes to other features, the dash here is a 4.2-inch color TFT dash, which shows you all the functions. So I just have to remove it from center stand, push start. It shows you the SOC, the speed. Now this blue means neutral riding mode. It goes to Eco. So there are 3 riding modes: Eco, Ride A and Ride B. So Ride A and Eco can be switched at the tap of a button, which is right over here. Yep, very easily switchable. So for Ride B, you have to stop the scooter and long press the mode for it to engage. So Ride B, you can long press and it will shift to Ride A. I'll explain the ride modes when I'm talking about the performance section. Now, when it comes to performance, the Suzuki E-Access is powered by a 3.072 kWh battery pack, which powers a swing arm mounted motor, making around 5.6 PS of power and 15 Nm of peak torque. The company claims a range of 95 kilometers. Now, that range comes with 3 riding modes. One is Eco, which is the most frugal of all, which has a restricted top speed of 55 kilometers. And then there is Trip A and Trip B. Of the 3 ride modes, there are 2 modes with high region and 1 mode with low region. Eco and Trip A has very high region, and Trip B has very low region. Now, Eco mode, the acceleration is a little dull. I would not say underwhelming, but it is a little dull. But then again, the frugal, the mode, it comes at a sacrifice of speed. When you shift to Trip A, which is where the top speed is logged at 71 kilometers per hour, and it does take its time to get there, but then again, if you're looking for spirited riding, then you have to shift to Trip B, which has low region mode, almost negligible. But of all the 3 modes, I was staying on the Trip B, which gives you a little more spirited riding and a sporty feeling of riding the electric scooter. When it comes to braking, the Suzuki Access gets a disc brake up front and a drum unit at the rear, and they both work in tandem because of the CBS feature. And I have no complaints regarding the brakes because they do a fine job of dropping anchors when needed. When it comes to suspension, now since we are testing on a track here and there were some bumpers which have been kept in the middle of the track, the suspension is actually on the supple side of things. It's a soft suspension and it is taken care of by a telescopic unit up front and a side-mounted monoshock at the rear. And they do a fine job, but a proper verdict can only be given when I get a test unit at my base in Delhi. Otherwise, it's a soft suspension which does a fine job of soaking up the bumpers that were put on the track. Now, when it comes to features, there is a tip over feature as well, which means that if the scooter is tipped over 65 degrees of angle, the motor will stop running, which is a good feature. Now, there is a lock function as well, which means that if you leave the vehicle unattended for over 5 minutes, it will lock itself. Now, that is added safety. The company claims that there is constant power delivery up until 10% of charge, which could not be validated because the scooter that I was riding never went below an SOC of 40%. So what's the verdict here? The Suzuki E-Access offers 95 kilometers of range, 5.6 PS of power, 15 Nm of peak torque, 3 ride modes, 4.2-inch TFT dash with Bluetooth tethering, weather alerts, turn-by-turn navigation as well. In my books, that's a proper electric scooter that does from point A to point B without any nonsense. But how does it fare amongst its class and the players that are already ruling the segment? Now that's a story for another day.
With that, it's a wrap on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through our various social media platforms. You can write to us on YouTube. We'll see you next week. Until then, drive and ride safe.